Welcome back to Her Drive, the show where we spotlight trailblazing women forging paths that are anywhere and anything but ordinary. My guest today is Chelsea Williams, the Chief Financial Architect at Core Solutions Group and the brilliant mind behind Money Mastery. Chelsea is a powerhouse in financial education and an intuitive guide for women ready to break free from old money narratives and build a future grounded in clarity, confidence, and wealth wisdom. With her new book on women and financial literacy dropping later this year, this conversation is timely and super transformative. We will explore how our emotional patterns, inherited beliefs, and unspoken fears impact our wallets, and how financial empowerment is not just about numbers, but about self-worth, sovereignty, and sustainable change. So settle in, beauties. I'm ready to introduce you to Chelsea. Hey, Chelsea, welcome to Her Drive.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm super happy to be here.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Well, I am excited about this topic. As someone who took like a personal finance course in college a long time ago and got like the basic understanding of what not to do and what to do, it was helpful and has guided me a bit in my life thus far. But I found myself wanting to dig deeper into my own patterns around finances, learn from different ways that family on one side has navigated money and making a lot of it being kind of greedy, and the other side just believing in being humble and a little bit is enough, right? But I do believe that there's so many different ways in which we as human beings and women can elevate our financial literacy and our energetics around money. So I feel like this is the perfect time to have you on this show. I'm really excited to dig into everything that your wisdom has to offer us.
Yeah. And, financial literacy, what kind of got me really invested in financial literacy as a whole is the fact that it's not required. Like the course that you took, was it a required course? Was it an optional course?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And even what is available to us can be biasly
Mm,
guided in the conversation. And it touches on things that seem to be consistent. Things like credit and what you can get with credit, which really fuels what I believe is against us right out of high school, which is that instant gratification,
mm-hmm.
and not asking the deeper questions of, well, why do you want good credit? And what are you going to get? And how is that going to contribute? So, along with formal education, really missing out the fundamentals, it was that world of financial options
Mm,
once you get that foundation built. And it can seem really overwhelming. We have a lot of people out here that are giving out financial advice that are not qualified, that are giving advice based on a specific financial path. And what I've come to learn over the past 17 years of studying people and money is that there is no one way to success when it comes to financial abundance. People have a lot of options. And that's what I like to help people with, is recognizing that they have unlimited options, unlimited capabilities, and then, yes, going down to those core beliefs to make sure that they don't have anything holding them back.
yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well, I am curious. Your title is Chief Financial Architect. I've never heard that before. Can you kind of describe that job description and title for us? It sounds so baller.
It was very intentional. I wanted to go with financial cartographer, which is the creation of maps. But because I wasn't super familiar with that word, I'm like, other people might not be familiar with that word. But architect fit really nicely as well, because when I talk about money, I talk about the three stages to mastering it. And I compare it to building a house. So, with your money, first you build the foundation because you want that solid base that is just going to give you that peace of mind that even if things swing badly, they're not going to swing tragically, right? That
Mm.
safeguard. And the second step to building a house is building the framework. And this is where you get to design the rooms and where you want the bathroom and put all the feng shui in there and just really map it out and get those systems and automations in place for yourself. And then the last step is what I refer to as the flywheel, which is staying on top of managing your money, staying on top of opportunities that are going to come, and making it all flow really well together. So, architect came from the idea that when I work with somebody, I listen to their story, where they're coming from. I listen to the story around where they're trying to go, and we really work to design their house so that they can make it a home.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And the people that you're working with, what's their general like socioeconomic profile?
I came into this profession working with business owners. And I say that, and I feel like a lot of people who aren't familiar with owning a business would think, oh, they have lots of money, and they're really good at this money thing. But to the contrary, a lot of the business owners that I work with, well, all of them are people, all of them are individuals. And when you own a business, there is no separation between church and state when it comes to your money. Not really. Maybe physically in a bank account, but the money habits you exhibit in your personal finance are the same money habits you're going to exhibit in your business finance.
Mm.
So while most of my career I've been working with business owners, the same exact principles spill over into personal finance. And just because people own a business does not mean that they make a ton of money at home. I was on the phone with an individual not too long ago that was making $7 million a year in revenue. And one bad sales month, they had to take out a loan and skip their paycheck. They were living no differently than somebody living paycheck to paycheck. So it's very subjective and I work with people that are living paycheck to paycheck, no matter how many millions they make in their business, and individuals like single mothers who are raising children on their own and trying to balance that career and that home life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating to me. Like many times we, talking about a collective we, we'll look at those who we see having abundance as far as like higher levels of cash flow coming in, and we think they have no problems at all, or there's no way they have money issues. So I appreciate you outlining how there can be someone who is living paycheck to paycheck, making maybe minimum wage or a lower income, and those that are making much more and still having that same patterning. So I'm curious, where does that patterning come from? And then secondly, how can people who operate from this in this way, how can they start to make shifts to create better financial stability, maybe that little nest egg or the foundation, like you were saying, in regards to the house?
Have you ever heard that saying that says, your beliefs create your thoughts, create your words, create your actions, create your character, create your destiny?
Yeah.
So that applies to money as well. And the piece of that sequence that you're seeing from the outside looking in are the actions, right? The nice things that we see that lead us to believe that this person has money. But for the people that outwardly appear like they have financial abundance, but on the inside behind the curtains are living paycheck to paycheck, you have to reverse engineer that sequence, and it goes back to their habits and their beliefs. And you had mentioned this in the beginning, that you grew up with one side of your family that had this view around money, but then another side where you got to see a different perspective and they saw money a little bit differently. And all of us have the same origin story of money around when we were young, mainly in what researchers have come to identify as the imprint period, when we are operating largely out of our subconscious. We're just observing the things around us, taking it in, we're a sponge. And the things that we experience up until about the age of 12 around money really stick with us. And of course, there are things that can happen after, but if you listening just think back to between the ages of, up until you were 12, like what did you experience around money? And not even directly tied to money, but around even what are the people around me willing to sacrifice around money? Like time.
Mm-hmm.
What did they have to do for it? Did they have to work 3 jobs and sacrifice time and hustle? And there was guilt around having too much. And These things are really ingrained in our subconscious. And until we bring them to the forefront into our awareness, we may not even know it. And
Yeah.
it may be what's holding us back. I shared with you before we started recording that I went on a trip to New Zealand, and it was with business owners and people in the business world. And I was talking to this one individual, and she was telling me her story of how she grew up and she had lost this massive trust fund, just life changing generational wealth trust fund. And it was just gone, just like that. And in her adult life, this pattern continues in the form of always spending what she brings in so that she just stays in this comfort zone of not having.
Mm.
And so it's the experiences like that and the beliefs that we hold on to that can perpetuate our current money position. And we see that in the form of habits, right? Spending, looking at to go buy a car when you know you got a raise coming. It's not even here yet, but you know it's coming and you want a car and you're going to spend it before you get it. And just not really understanding, because of lack of financial literacy, how those decisions are going to affect their financial future.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like the imprinting for sure is a big deal, these traumatic events that may happen. And I keep thinking like the nervous system. Is there something in the nervous system that is interplaying with all of this as well?
Yes, 100%. And, money is a mirror. I have a podcast as well, and it's called Always and Never About the Money,
Mm.
because everything around money ties into every department of your life. And you can absolutely experience a physical anxiety, a physical trauma response to getting money and keeping it and spending it and all of the things. On one end, I've worked with people who have a lot of anxiety around spending money. They have plenty,
Yeah.
they can afford it, but there's this physical anxiety that creeps up when they even think about going to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, 100% money and how we move around it and the beliefs are stored in our nervous system and can show up physically.
Yeah. 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 Not to make this about me, but I'm just thinking about different people within my family dynamics. And I had this uncle, he's passed away now, but plenty of money, but the most stingy person ever. And I always, growing up, going on vacation with him and his wife, I always thought it was weird. Like I couldn't understand how he could be that way. But now, as an adult, looking back and understanding a bit more about imprinting patterning, like there's clearly a reason that he behaved that way. And I always thought like, wow, what a shame that you can't in my mind like enjoy the abundance of your hard work and not live in this state of fear that, it might all go away at some point. It was just really interesting to me. And then I look at other people in my life who have, especially women, who have this inherited belief, it seems, that it blocks their abundance, it blocks their sense of self worth or how much they can bring in. And I'm curious if you have an antidote of some sort or little tips that might be able to aid these women and or people in identifying what those blocks might be and then moving past them if they're specifically inherited.
Mm, I love this topic, and it's going to be part of what's in my upcoming book. Part of giving women an understanding around why we collectively have not realized and asserted our value to this point in history is giving women an understanding of where we're coming from,
Mm,
especially women in the United States. And it is a similar storyline in many countries. The history of women and power and money and value is shrouded in not having it. And this is a long, deep standing history. It's only been 50 years since women have even had the opportunity to chase financial freedom.
hmm
That is 1% of the financial algorithm that has been building and evolving in the United States. And what I want women to understand, because in my book, I go through the timeline of history and how it had an effect on us collectively. And it's been passed down for generations. You know, we inherit a lot from our mothers and our grandmothers and their grandmothers. And these things have been taught and accepted and enforced generation over generation. We're really only 2 generations into women realizing that we can, and then embracing it and stepping into our power.
Mm.
We are the glass ceiling shatterers, and we have to be, because what I want you women to be excited about, you women listening right now, over the next 20 years, we are going to experience the greatest wealth transfer that has ever happened in history. And women stand to inherit over half of the estimated $30 trillion that is about to get passed down. And so, what we need to do as women is be very intentional and very proactive about stepping into that power. History gives us understanding of why we don't feel comfortable. After having that understanding and giving yourself permission to start stepping into it, we got to do the work.
Mm.
We have to reprogram our nervous systems. We have to reprogram our mind, because opportunities are nothing if you're not positioned to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Position and opportunity is everything. And so right now, we need to be mentally priming ourselves. We have to be okay not being comfortable. We have to get out of that, what is an uncomfortable comfortable, right? Because sometimes we stay in places that are uncomfortable, but it's familiar. It's a
Right.
familiar uncomfortable. So it feels, we tell ourselves it's safe. But we have to step into the uncomfortable and find a village of women to support you,
Mm.
right? Create a village of women if you don't have that, because we need each other to lean on in this period in history to be able to do this, because
Yeah.
we have to do the work. When this wealth comes, money in the hands of women does amazing things for everybody, not just the woman who has the money. And this has been proven study after study. When you give women money, they do right by it. And so, my mission through my book and through what I'm starting to get into in preparation for all of this is to empower women to step into this place of preparedness, so that when we get this wealth, we do right by it.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel all of that like tingles in my all over my body and even internally. That's just the truth of what you're sharing. And it's exciting to know that this is coming, and many would say it's about fucking time, you know? And when I think about abundance for myself, I've noticed in different periods of my life, the more I have, the more I give, right? And like the more enhanced I make the lives of people around me, the more charitable I am, of course. And I don't want to hold it. I think of myself as like a channel to let it flow through, right? And if I have more, I can open up the floodgates or the dam, so to speak, and make greater impact. And that's been something that I'm consistently rewiring in my system. And you talk about doing the work, is not being afraid to have, not being afraid to be big or expressive or really just take up space in any way. And I think money has been the kind of the quiet one, that the more like, I don't want people to know that I want to have wealth or I want to generate wealth. I can't really talk about that. That's unbecoming of a woman. And that's just my own narrative, because I look out there and I see all these women who are fucking doing it and they're crushing it and they're living their best lives. And I think, well, no, that's a perfect template for it is okay. But where is the discomfort and where's the disconnect? And I believe that comes from internally, but then also the people around us. And you talk about building your own village. If there's people around a woman who are envious or they're cutting them down, it's less likely for them to grow. So I'm curious what your thoughts are for the women out there who are kind of afraid to outshine those or outperform by monetary standards in their opinion, and like what they can do to move through that discomfort and maybe just shift their lives totally.
I have to acknowledge something you said first because it is a great piece of advice for your listeners. You mentioned that you see all these other people, all these other women that are embracing abundance and wealth and just shamelessly stepping into it and owning it. There is proof for every narrative you're telling yourself. And the way that you intentionally chose to focus on the women who were embracing it the way that you wanted to feel comfortable embracing it, automatically, when we as humans see somebody else doing something, it gives ourselves permission. That's like Roger Bannister when he was the first human to run under a 4-minute mile. The industry as a whole, the track and field profession as a whole, unanimously agreed it was not humanly possible. As soon as he did it, person after person after person started breaking the 4-minute mile, just shattering the professional's opinion altogether. And the same thing applies for whatever you listening want out of money, because what we're really buying is time and experience with people that we love, right? So, whatever dreams you have around however much money you want to make, find a woman who is already doing it because you are giving your subconscious mind permission to want it too. And the second piece, growth and evolution is hard, especially when it means outgrowing the people around you. It can be one of the hardest things because it can be even family and that's so difficult, you know. But it is true that you are the sum of the people around you. If the people around you have a very low vibrational energy, your body is going to sync with that energy, with that low negative energy. And like attracts life, like we are energetic beings. When we attract something, it starts with us and us aligning our vibrational energy with what it is that we want. And the more we put ourselves around people who are not supporting us, who are making us feel like we shouldn't want that, or who don't have the same level of aspirations that we have, you are surely putting yourself in a position where you're not as likely to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. And it sounds cold and mean and selfish to say that, we just have to distance ourselves from these people and we just have to break away from these people. But what you're accepting if you don't is that you are lowering your standards to the people around you. And that is where you really have to define why you want the money. Money is not enough. You don't want money. You want time and experience with specific people. And so,
Yeah.
along with finding somebody out in the real world that's doing what you want to do, call your shot. This is where you make your financial house a home. Whose pictures are going to be on the wall?
Yeah.
Who are you going to be looking at? How are you going to commune in the kitchen and make food and create an experience for those people? Who is part of your money story?
Hmm.
More so than how much money do you need to achieve that?
That's so beautiful. And it, for me, leans into a spiritual lens and leads into my next question is, do you believe that there's a correlation between spirituality and money or financial abundance?
I do. Have you ever heard of the book The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist?
Mm-hmm. It's a great
Yes.
book.
It is one of my favorites. And on top of laying out how women give money so freely, that's one of the things she does in her book is like money in the hands of women does right by everybody. But she puts money in the perspective of energy.
Yeah.
Money, there's a reason why financial terms emulate water and fluidity, liquidating assets, cash flow. I mean, there are numerous water terms in money because money flows with energy. And your energy sits in your spirituality. Those two are very tightly intertwined. And so taking care of yourself, that's part of like the preparation to even receive abundance, right? And why, if you look at money and your goals, in order to hit them, you have to address you and what you believe and what you stand for and the principles you want to live by and how you want to share your abundance and really define that and embrace that and identify your triggers. Our triggers are our responsibility. And ask yourself, do I feel bad about wanting wealth? Right? If I had more money than I needed, how does that make me feel? And pay attention to your body. Listen to that chemical reaction that's telling us how we really feel about that. Because when you identify your triggers, you can work on them. It gives you the opportunity to work on them and to change them, which is something we can absolutely do. We can now see under a magnifying glass neurons in our brain forming new connections. We know this is possible.
Thank you for that beautiful correlation between the two. Um, if you could give financial freedom like a mantra, a feel, a sensation, something more like tactile to describe the words, what would that be for you?
As in what it means to be financially free.
Yeah, but like the embodiment of it, what is that like?
One quote comes to mind, and it's by the author Mike Michalowicz, who wrote Profit First, a cash management book for businesses. And in his book, there's a quote that says, "Profit is not an event, profit is a habit." That word profit can be interchanged with
Mm,
so many different words.
okay.
Financial freedom is not an event. It is not something that happens overnight or even quickly. It is a habit. It is the things that we do every day, every year, every 3, 5, 10 years. And to me, financial freedom should be something that you can feel now and work towards.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. I am curious, more of a personal question for you. What drew you into this work?
Divine intervention.
Ah, all right.
I became an accountant by accident. When I went back to college, I became a very single mother at 20 years old and went to college looking for a career. And I went for healthcare and then took an accounting class that was required. And that's when I was like, oh, I'm really good at this. My brain clicks with this. I should do this because most people hate it. And so I ran with it. And what I began to understand is that numbers are great, but if people don't know how to use them, they're meaningless and they hold no value. And there's so much power in understanding your numbers because it could be your mirror. Right. And so then after working for a few years with people and really developing the psychology around it and how to get to the person behind the money to make the changes, to make the financial dream come to life, I just really enjoyed it. I mean, I truly feel like I live in my passion. I don't feel like I'm clocking into work. There are very few days where I don't want to sit here and work. It's just very meaningful work for me. And then we layer the idea of really empowering women during this specific time in history when it's going to matter the most.
Yeah.
Divine alignment. It was a completely organic journey.
Wow. That's beautiful. And if you could go back in time and give a younger you some words of wisdom, to what age would you go and what would you say?
Ooh, I would go back to the Walmart bathroom stall where the pregnancy test told me I was going to be a mom and I experienced a paradigm shift. And I would say, girl, it's going to happen. One step, one step at a time, and do it for you, nobody else. Do it for you. Everybody else will come around or they won't.
Wow. Yeah. That's a very big mic drop. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a hard lesson that some of us get to learn earlier, some of us later in life. Is that those who are meant to be around will be around, and those who are meant to leave and let them go with grace, rather than grasping. And that leads to a much more easeful life. Hmm.
Yeah, it's that trust component. I think that's where spirituality comes into it.
Mm,
Knowing that what is meant for you cannot be kept from you,
yeah.
and what is not meant for you cannot be kept by you.
Yeah.
Just like you said, that's actually one of my mantras for 2025. And I say it so often in so many different areas of my life. Like, You can't keep it from me and I can't keep it. So I trust.
Yes, yes. I love it. So, do you notice different trends on how women approach money, investing, and sovereignty, depending upon maybe where they are at generationally or within their age point right now?
Yes, absolutely. Women make great investors overall. And this is the motivation for your audience. No matter who you are, where you're at, what your walk of life is, our divine feminine gives us powers when it comes to money. For example, stewardship, like we've been talking about. We give. We're not inherently selfish. We're nurturers. We're caretakers. We're taking care of everybody else around us. And there's a happy medium in there, right? But that is a superpower. Another one of our superpowers is diligence and patience as women. And studies have shown time and time again, one of them being Elevest, a female investment platform, that women outperform their male counterparts when it comes to investing, which is very powerful to hear. And I absolutely do see different patterns, even down to demographics, cultural backgrounds, because just like women as a whole, we have this mindset from history that has been passed down from generation. Individual culture subsets have that same exact situation where history has shaped them to have these beliefs around money and their potential and how they can use it and how they should use it and what's okay for them to have versus what's not acceptable for them to have. So that certainly plays a part.
Yeah. Yeah, when you were saying that, I had this very strong vision or seeing of chains being broken off of people. And when I think of those chains, what they represent, it's the mind control, the narratives that are no longer true, and they're at this point self-imposed. It seems to me, right? So if women are wanting to, they've realized they have these cultural chains of so to speak on them. What is like step one, maybe step two of like breaking them off?
Definitely what we talked about in terms of realize if you have chains and
Yeah.
realize what those chains are and do your inner work to start fixing them, to start breaking them and cutting them off. Technically speaking, looking at your money from a technical perspective, starting to pay attention to what you're making, where it's going, and what you're keeping. And then creating a budget. I know people don't like the word budget, but it's all in perspective, right? What a budget is a boundary. It's your boundary, it's your financial boundary to make sure that you are spending in alignment with your goals. But the area to focus on in your money equation, because everybody lives under the same equation: money you make, money you spend, money you keep. The unlimited potential lies in the money you make. Now, that is going to butt you up into a lot of beliefs that you're going to have to address. But focus on that top line item, the money you make, looking for opportunities, establishing your value in that place, being prepared to face imposter syndrome. I'm here to tell you it's okay. We almost all have faced it at some point or another. The most successful women you could ever find have likely faced imposter syndrome. They can do it. You can do it too. Don't be afraid of the work. And another reason why it's so important to get ahead of this wealth transfer. This wealth is coming in the forms of baby boomers passing on and leaving assets, real estate, trusts, trust funds to their kids, their family. And the truth about that is, if a demographic didn't have that to begin with, they're not going to be the ones to receive it. And so, what it stands to do is further make that gap bigger between cultural wealth discrepancies. And so part of doing right by these, and part of my mission, is creating opportunities for women to give to other women who did not have that coming down the pipeline, who were not scheduled to receive any of this $30 trillion. Not everybody's getting it. And so I want the ones that do get it to do right by it and empower women who culturally and historically aren't set to receive this opportunity.
That's a really beautiful perspective on what is coming. And I recently had a financial advisor on her drive, and she focuses on working with people who have suddenly come into wealth and basically coaching them on what to do with it. Because some have worthiness issues, they're afraid, like they hide it, they don't want people to know. It's a big challenge. And it was a really cool perspective of, again, receiving, not knowing. How's this going to shift my relationships with people around me? So it sounds like there is a lot of mindset shifting from a variety of angles to help create charitable understanding and that river flowing, right? And I appreciate that you're on that side of the work as well. So say there's women in the audience who they're in the position to receive. What would you like to say to them specifically?
Work with a financial professional to make sure that you understand what it means for you and that you manage it wisely. You know, there's a reason why, statistically speaking, people that win the lottery end up more in debt after than they were before they received that money. We have a way of self sabotaging if we don't know better. So if you know that you are not prepared, get prepared. And what that means is exercising your financial habits now, finding a professional who can help guide you through this, and looking for opportunities to give back. We're in the process of creating a personal financial course. So if you go to the website, moneymastery.work, you can sign up to be notified when the course drops and when the book is released. But that's what we do. We start preparing our minds and our habits now for when it comes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And for the women who may have placed themselves in a position now where they're not feeling like they haven't made the we'll use the word correct with quotes around it, financial choices, right? And they're kind of in the hole, or they're living paycheck to paycheck. What is just a little bit of advice that you can provide for them on their journey to rewrite their habits?
We fall and we get back up. Again, nobody has come to success without failing as much as they succeeded. And the only difference between you and somebody who quote unquote made it is that they tried one more time. Give yourself grace, forgive yourself. Do not label yourself because of that decision or even that series of decisions. Give yourself another opportunity. Identify what you didn't have before that's going to help you to get it right this time. Whether that's a financial course, putting a budget in place, and money is a journey. It is not something that you just put this thing into place and it's all fine and well and you're not going to make mistakes and it's just going to be up and up from here. Lifes.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
So there is absolutely 5 other ways that you can do this. So don't hold on to that guilt. Just start looking for the ways.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Chelsea, for being here. I would love to just open the floor for anything else that you'd like to touch on before we close out.
I think we covered a lot of things. This has been really amazing. I mean, I could go on for hours about money, but that's why you should sign up for our newsletters. So when my book is released, I've already got the next 2 mapped out. You know, that's another way that you can prepare. With women and money, we really just need to give ourselves grace because of where we've come from. We have not been positioned for the opportunity, right? So
Yeah.
we have to give ourselves grace because of that. And there is nothing that you woman listening cannot learn. I say you only need fourth grade math to figure out finance. Don't let
Yes.
people scare you away. Don't let people intimidate you. Be careful who you listen to.
Mm.
There is
Yeah.
a way. You deserve it and you can find it because we have great things coming, ladies. We can change the world over the next 20 years into a completely different place if we do this right.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you on that and on everything you've said, and specifically around the be careful who you listen to, you know? And I think that's where feminine intuition comes in, you know? Like when my intuition is like steady and like calm, whereas like the ego or anxiety or something else is very like quick and like, you need to jump on this right now. And I've seen, I pay attention. I'm always like observing what's happening out there, and there's some people who are like forcing you to buy right now in these high pressured sales situations, like, don't miss out. I'm like, that doesn't feel right to me. I'm going to go with the teacher, the resources that feel calm and soothing within my nervous system. And they're not rushing me in. And I know there's different sales techniques, but to me, like, and what you're presenting, what you're sharing feels very grounded and like centered and nourishing rather than frantic. And that's where I think women need to move away from the frantic energy and more into the nourished, like womb space intelligence, not just for our bodies and how we live our life in other ways, but in the financial space as well.
There is power in the pause,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're allowed to pause
Yeah.
whenever you feel like hitting the button.
Mm-hmm.
Who you work with matters.
Yeah.
It's got to be a good match.
Absolutely. Well, Chelsea, please let everyone know where they can find you and your work.
Moneymastery.work has everything that we do on this side of the business. So, again, I'm really excited for this book. I have huge plans for it. And I would love everybody to have it in their hands as permission and power.
Yeah.
So,
Fantastic. Well, again, thank you so much for being such a beautiful, informative, heart centered guest. It was really an honor chatting with you.
yes, thank you so much for having me. It's been
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. And thanks everyone for tuning in to this episode of Her Drive. As always, there's no show without you. So if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and share with others who you know it would definitely land in their head and their hearts. Take care. Bye.